Hey guys, this is Melissa Navia, and you are listening to the incredible SyFy Sistas.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the SyFy Sistas Podcast, where we give you our point of view. I'm your host, Tamia Harper, and I'm joined today by my sisters, Yvette Blackman-Tom.
Hello.
And Sabrina Wood.
Whoop, whoop.
And we have a really special guest today. We're super excited. We met her only once for a wee bit of time, and it felt like we had known her forever because it really feels like she's a SyFy sister for life. And you guys know her. And I have to say, like, no shade to any other pilots, but she's our new favorite pilot in any Star Trek. Like out of all the Star Treks. So that's saying a lot. And so you know her probably from Star Trek Strange New Worlds, playing Miss Erica Ortegas. And we want to introduce you to Miss Melissa Navia.
Hey guys.
I knew I was going to do that. Sorry.
All good. Hey guys, how's it going? Super happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for saying yes.
We had a minute on the red carpet. Like, first of all, your energy is so infectious. Like, what was so cool for us meeting you in person, even though it was just a couple of minutes, was like we felt the same energy that you bring to Ortegas. We felt that from you on the red carpet. Like we were talking a little bit like right before we started about the energy being infectious. We felt the same way. It was so simpatico. So we're so excited.
It was this mutual, totally, like when I saw you guys, like I felt like we knew each other and I left and I was like, I have to meet them again. And here we are.
Yay! And we're really excited. We want to talk all things Strange New Worlds. We want to talk Girl with Short Hair.
Yeah.
That's a really cool project. And for those of you who are listening, if you might not have seen any pictures of the SyFy Sistas, the majority of us have short hair, and we are women with short hair. So we all connected about that on the red carpet. But I want to start off talking about Erica Ortegas. Mm-hmm. I think she's amazing. She's a brand new character to us in Star Trek. So there's a lot of weight on the shoulders of any actor bringing in introducing a brand new character to this franchise, which is like, we're super critical of everything, fans are in this franchise. Like, how's this experience been for you, bringing her to us, and then also fan reaction?
Sure. Oh my goodness, there's so much we can say. I'll start by saying that we just finished finished shooting season 2. I finished on Monday, and the cast is still going. I believe the last day is today. But it's been such an interesting experience getting to watch with the world, or a large part of the world. I know the show is still rolling out in a lot of different markets, and all the different countries that have not gotten it yet are letting us know, and we feel the pain, but we're like, the wait will be worth it. But it's been just such an extraordinary experience getting to work on season 2 while we're watching everybody react to season 1, and we knew, without sounding cocky, like we knew that we had this really kind of special, this special project, that we were working on last year. And it was so hard to kind of keep it under wraps for as long as we did. In addition to that, we were shooting during the pandemic. So, we were shooting in Toronto, and it was like full lockdown. And so we were very much in a bubble of the cast and crew. And so the fact that we were able to kind of, keep so much of all the secrets that we had for so long, and then it finally gets released this past May, it's just been wonderful. And the fan reaction has been every single week. I mean, the cast is constantly jazzed about everything that we're hearing from fans. Like fans And I've kind of always understood this about Star Trek, but to get to experience it, where it's like such a big part of this franchise is the fandom, you know, because they create so many stories out of the stories that we put out. You know, all the fan fiction, like I'm in awe every week at the speed at which fans create things. And it's and we all
you got a lot of fan fiction out there.
Yeah, and I can speak for the cast. Like we'll be sitting in our chairs and like, you know, somebody will be like, you know, like, did you see this? And everyone's like, what? And then like, we'll like kind of brief each other on what's going on. And I always joke with Celia. Celia is like the youngest of our crew, but like sometimes she just is the wisest as well. But she's also like the quickest when it comes to like social media. Mm-hmm. And so I always joke with her that I'm trying always like to keep up as much as she does. So the two of us will always be like seeing things before everybody else does, and we'll share it. But just the fan reaction, the critical reaction has just been wonderful. And it's only kind of made us really want to deliver even more in season 2. And so if you can believe it, I do think season 2 is somehow going to top season 1. I know that's crazy.
Yeah, right,
but,
stop.
I know it's crazy, especially too, because I'm so excited. We also like shot some of the most amazing scenes and just the most wonderful episodes toward the end of our shooting season. And so right now I'm just like exhausted, and so I'm kind of running on no energy. You might not be able to tell because I'm always just kind of energetic, but yeah, so it's been just really wonderful. And then also and again, totally cut me off because I can just talk and talk and talk.
No, that's good.
But in terms of Erica, I've been so happy to see everyone kind of reacting to her. The fact that she isn't a legacy character for me has been freeing, you know, because I don't really have kind of expectations to meet. If anything, I'm just so happy to be originating this role, and I'm sure you guys have heard it, and other people have heard it, but her last name Ortegas comes from Gene Roddenberry's original pilot for Star Trek, and there was a character named Jose Ortegas who became Jose Tyler, and so as an actor, and also, you know, as a fan of Star Trek, but just in so many different ways, like it feels like here's this character that never got, you know, their moment on screen. And so all these decades later, I'm in some way bringing that to the screen. And I'm able to do it justice and put my own twist on it. And so I feel very, very honored to have that responsibility. And it just kind of, for me, there's just a profoundness to it because of, you know, just how long it's taken in my career to get to this point, to find what I keep saying is kind of, you know, the perfect role. I'm still in shock. You know, I joke that we just had episode 8 aired, the fantasy episode.
Yes.
And, you know, one of the great things about Star Trek, which you guys know, is like, you know, each character gets to play so many different characters. And I'm kind of like, I'm still in awe that I managed to land this wonderful role that allows me to play all these different versions of herself. You know, who gets to sword fight in space?
Right.
Erica Ortegas, right? Like, I'm like, you can't write this. They did write it, but yeah, right. So yeah, I don't know what other franchise allows you to kind of play as much as ours does, and so yeah, I'm always going to be grounded about it. I promise. Like I'll never. Like I've had people asking me in the last like month, like, what does it feel like, you know, knowing you're going to become an icon? And I'm straight up like, I don't know how to answer that question. Like, I don't know. I'm tired all the time, and I'm right. Like I don't know. I'm just trying to make it through the days. And so yeah. So the fans are just wonderful, and yeah, and I love Erica, and I'm glad that that's coming across, you know, from the screen to you guys.
Oh, absolutely, it does. See, Sabrina, I see you over there. You're itching.
No, I'm just watching Melissa and just loving this whole thing because I just want to say that I am the OG in the group here. So I'm the one person here that has seen every Star Trek series premiere. Every single one of them. I've seen every one premiere. And,
that's amazing.
You know, the first one, like, nobody even knew what was happening. And you know, Next Gen, we had reservations about, you know, Picard. we were like, I don't know. Every season has had, or every franchise has had its, a hard start. And I think Strange New Worlds is the one that just took off running. Yeah. Nobody said boo, ba, or left the gate, and the race was over. And I just want to congratulate you, because I have seen every single show struggle with the fans and like this, yada yada yada. Not a word. There's nothing you can say. The show is just a joy, and I love every single thing. And I will mention.
Well, that means so much, and especially coming from a Trekkie like yourself that has seen everything. I mean, that right there is just. I mean, you can't get higher praise than that. So thank you for that.
You guys are doing it. I just want to mention there was one other pilot that was sword fighting, and it was Sulu.
Mm-hmm. It was indeed. It was indeed. And it's and then that's the other thing too. Is like, say it again.
I'll put you up against him because you were doing some sword fighting. I was so impressed. You and Mitchell went at it.
Yeah, that's good.
I know, right? And also Mitchell, she's played by my good friend now, Wrong. Like it's just, I mean, she was transformed from my co-pilot Mitchell to just my enemy. Yes. And we had some great moments. We have like some great moments that I don't think even made it into like the final cut. But it was just we just all had such a blast. We had such a blast, which I'm sure you guys can tell. And even now, like I'm seeing that Paramount Plus is just releasing all these extras. Like even just now I was like looking, like you could just see like how much everybody had a blast on the show. There's things that we shot that didn't even make it into the final cut, which I hope at some point, is released in like a, DVD extras or whatever. But we just had such a great time. But what I was going to say about
do they still have DVDs?
I know, right? We shot interview stuff that like, they always explain to us. They're like, oh, it's for the DVD extras. And we're all like, okay. I'm like, you can tell us whatever. And I'm like, I'll do the interview. But like, so it's like fans like every week are the ones who like, I definitely have Trekkies in my life. But fans are the ones who kind of like just always are teaching me stuff. For example, that's how I found out about Sulu fencing. And then I also like this past week, I don't know if you guys saw, but I really got a kick out of this. Like they released all the promo stills for episode 9.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's dark and snowy and there's goggles and scary and it's just a horror episode. And then there's one shot of Erica on the bridge and it's like the happiest shot you've ever gotten of me or Erica or anybody. And it's just like me like, like just big smile, like brightly lit. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, it's like I'm in a different episode. And then all these fans were just like, they sent me these screenshots, like of an episode where Sulu has to go to like a frozen planet or something.
Yes,
he almost freezes.
He freezes to death.
And and they're like, stay on the bridge, stay on the ship. Like it's not good when the pilot goes to the cold planet.
Don't leave the bridge.
So I'm like, cool. I'm very happy to be on the bridge. I don't do well in the cold, so I'm good. But it just I got a kick out of whoever released those photos. I'm like, you guys have to like know that looked insane.
Right.
It's like here's just a shot of Erica, just in general.
I love the fact that, like, just to go back to what we were talking about with how Gene's original character was Jose and supposed to be Ortegas, and and then he was renamed Tyler. And I get why they did that in their age. I mean, that's not surprising, right? And then it made me think like, oh, well, that's like The Expanse always does, like these mishmash of cultural names. Like people will have Western and Asian and African names like the same person, but they're totally making a different point, right?
Yeah.
But how cool is it, though, that Erica is there now? I think that, of course, we love Star Trek for the representation always, and it started with Nichelle Nichols and George Takei, and a Russian being on the bridge together in the middle of the Cold War, but we don't get a lot of Latina representation. You have some, like we had Belana Torres in Voyager, and she was totally kick-ass. Like we love her character, but then she wasn't fully human representing either. She was half Klingon. half human. But Erica is Erica, you know, and
Yeah.
she's germane, and she's integral to everything that happens into the survival of this crew, you know, and she does her job so well, and she gets to have fun. I mean, I think I love that. That's what I love about how they're writing these characters with representation. Everybody isn't all like serious all the time. Like, well, you know, I'm Black. Did you know? We have some things we got to talk about now.
Right.
Let's confront my Blackness in your space. You know, like Erica's not there. Like, I'm representing. Erica's there,
right.
just being Erica. And I think that's the beauty of that character. But do you have thoughts about her, like that character and representation or anything?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, so many thoughts. On the one hand, it's like when I got the audition, I remember seeing that she was a pilot, combat veteran, and I remember we spoke about this on the red carpet. But I've you know been quite fortunate in my career to have gotten to play a number of soldiers and pilots and an astronaut, and just in general, like all these really like just nuanced, intelligent female roles that maybe you don't get to see a lot of. Like I have plenty of actor friends who've gotten in for all these really two-dimensional roles, for auditions. And for some reason, I think it is because I am, as casting directors, told me time and again for years, and they continue to, I'm very specific. Right. And so, that's, I get it. Like, I'm super unique. Like, I'm myself. Like, I never make apologies. I'm like, you can't figure me out. And that's better for me. And, it's not my job here to make it easy for people to box me into anything. And so as an actor, when casting directors very much need to box you into something, like they're always like, what do we do with Melissa? And so I think what ended up happening is I would get these just really wonderful roles. My mom would always make me laugh because she was always like, don't get typecast as, as this and as that. It's like, Mom, I was like, nobody brings me in for those, like those, like very like, she just, you can only imagine, like, as a mother, like my mom's always like thinking the worst. And she was like, don't go in for this, don't go in for that. I was like, well, I'm barely going in for anything, and then when I go in, it's, for like, it's like for this like top level, like computer hacker that's, really intelligent and also, is a former soldier. And so but because I've always gone in for those roles, I just never thought, really thought much about it. I was like, oh, this is just kind of the roles that everyone goes in for. And then as my career has progressed, I started to kind of really realize that that's not the case so much for a lot of women. And I saw a documentary called This Changes Everything that was put out by the Gina Davis Institute. I don't know if you know it, but I highly recommend it. Where basically it's like the institute basically kind of quantified this whole feeling that throughout the history of cinema and television, women have been underrepresented, not only in the types of roles they get, but in how much screen time they get and what they talk about when they're on screen. And I remember seeing that a few years ago, and it was the first time that I kind of got like a little angry. And I feel like it's always good to be a little angry always, about things, because that's how things change. But it was the first time that I found myself a little angry at like this industry that I love so much, where I'm just like, I'm like, women, it's taken us a while to be able to have us on screen in ways that are not perfect, or in ways that are not, kind of, black or white, to be fully like what women are in life, right? Complicated, nuanced, all layered,
human.
And so what I was thinking of, human, crazy. And I started to think, I'm like, the reason I think that it really had never dawned on me was because, growing up, I was always just like, I could see movies and TV shows, and I always give the example of Indiana Jones, right? Because Indiana Jones for me was like kind of just like looming in my world always. I was just like, I wanted to be Indiana Jones, and I'm like, I can do that. Or I would see, the Ghostbusters, and I got all the Ghostbusters things when I was little. I was like, I'm going to grow up and I can play Ghostbuster, in the movies. And for me, for whatever reason, it just wasn't, I didn't need to see a woman doing it, because I was like, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it one day. But I understand that I started to understand a few years ago really why it is so important that I have a niece who looks up to me so much. She's just extraordinary. And I get it. Like, you know, like young girls and young boys and people in general and non-binary kids and all of us need to see all of that representation. That's why we need to see more trans representation. Why we need to see ourselves on screen. Because wherever we are kind of in this world and wherever that television shows pops up in our life, it's important. It's important for so many people. So to then kind of pivot to the other part of your question about being Latina, like what I loved about Erica and that breakdown was that it had that she was Latina. And I feel like so many times I've auditioned and I was told for so much of my career, like I'm ethnically ambiguous, right? Which is fine. And it kind of means that, you know, you can, which I think a lot of people are ethnically ambiguous. It means you can kind of fit into all sorts of different, you know, again, boxes are very important in casting, which I get it. Because that's how you cast roles, and it's a lot of roles to cast. But especially as I've been getting older, like I want to play roles that I can speak to my heritage, my family. My background is Colombian. So both my parents are from Colombia. And I've also noticed too how, like, you know, there's certain stereotypes about either Latinos in film or in television that I just want to break, and I'm like tired of. And you see, you know, and you see a lot of, you know, celebrities, you know, huge names that are, you know, will get this film and it looks really cool, but it deals with like the same, just kind of the same thing, you know. Like I did a wonderful interview, my first Spanish language interview ever for a wonderful, huge radio station in Colombia. And I was trying to, like, you know, watch some like Colombian TV shows, movies, and I Netflixed, you know, Colombia, and just the number of things that came up. I'm like, this is not representative of all the amazing things that happen in Colombia. That's not representative of my family, of our stories and so that was one thing that I spoke about with them too. And with a few, with other outlets too, in Latin America. I did a press junket last week. That was wonderful. But just that I'm very much like Erica. I want to play roles. I have no desire. And especially now that I've gotten this most amazing role, like I'm sure I'm driving my reps crazy, but I'm like, I don't need 10 more. I can like not audition, you know, for another year. I'm fine. Like the next audition better be for something, you know, that matches,
right.
You know, matches Erica. Right. But like, I have absolutely no desire to tell a story that doesn't need like I want to tell stories that need telling and that forward the conversation. And so here we come to Erica, and it was just, you know, I am who I am, and so much of what was on the page in that audition felt like me. You know, it felt like she's like, you know, she can joke, and yet she's also you know, physically competent. And even though I've never been an actual soldier, I'm not a veteran, but I've played many, and so it was just kind of incredible to me, because I'm like this is so much like me and who I play, and it was a certain level of like, you know, if they want short-haired crazy me, you know, I'm going to book it. And if they don't want me, it's not meant for me. And that's it. And so, yeah, so seeing her at the helm of the Enterprise, I think slowly as like the months progressed, like I started to realize kind of just how, I knew how massive it was, but the fact too, like, you know, that here we have a Latina at the helm, and, you know, she doesn't, it's not like it's a thing, it's a part of who she is, just as everything else is, just as her history as a combat veteran is part of her. And what we see with Erica, I know a lot of fans, I love them all already. But they're all like, you know, they're like, if we don't get an Ortegas episode before the season ends, like we're going to revolt. Like
my next question.
Like, people are, yeah, like, people are straight up like, where is the Ortegas episode? Question mark. Like there's no joking about it. And I'm just like, telling the writers and producers, I'm like, guys, there's going to be like, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem.
Yep. Going to have a problem.
And so, but I keep saying, like, it's funny because I'm like every single episode I feel, and I hope that I've done a good job of doing this, but we're seeing another kind of aspect to her. So even episode 9, where she is again on the ship because she's flying while everyone's dealing with all sorts of craziness down below, you get to see another side of her that maybe she doesn't wear on her sleeve the way that La'an might, or the way that Chapel might. And so, yeah, so we get to kind of reveal all those sides to her. As an actor, I appreciate that. As Melissa, you know, kind of watching myself play like this just role of a lifetime. I just appreciate the ability to do that. So this is a very, very long answer to your very short question, but yes, it's very important to me that she's Latina and at the helm of the Enterprise.
That's the type of answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, because because we do need to speak that. And I think that that's one of the ways in which we like to use this show is to put a shot. Like I will ask that question over and over and over again and talk about it over and over and over again because of how important it is. I mean, just on the last show that we recorded, we were talking about the very same thing when you were talking about representation of Colombia, right? And we were talking about representation of Black men and women. Like, who do you see on the news committing crimes at night? It's always Black people. Like, you don't see anybody, like nobody else in the world commits crimes, right? Like, it's all like, I mean, and this is how the image that is constantly taught to people, to the world at large, and to people that, especially like Black men are violent, Black men are dangerous, Black men are not good fathers, we don't see that, so, I mean, it's important. And and I feel like if I scream it to the mountaintops and I get people writing to say like, oh, we're tired of you saying that, well, then you need to go someplace else because this is the SyFy Sistas show, damn it. And this is
and it's one of those, it's one of the, I remember the producers, I forget, I'm sure several of them said it, and our producers are so wonderful. But they were saying how like, that the bridge should really be a representation of the world.
Yes.
And so even when, when our cast was announced, like, there was some people and people who I love who were just like, they noticed that there was more women than men.
That's right.
And it was something they noticed and said, oh, there's more women than men. And I'm like, but if there was more men than women, then we wouldn't have said anything.
Right.
So it's all in all those different ways, like, and it happens subconsciously too, but in the same way that I feel like if, as a child, like I feel very fortunate in that I was schooled in a very diverse school system. And that kind of shapes your worldview, in ways that I didn't even realize was happening as a child, because I was just in school. And then as an adult now, I'm like, why do so many of these things not feel weird? I'm like, oh, because that's how we were. So, and the fact that Star Trek is a part of so many of our lives, whether we realize it or not, whether you're a Trekkie, like that's the great thing about being on Star Trek. It's like everyone, it's the great thing and maybe not the great thing. Like I'm saying that now because I've like, not really been out in the world, but like everyone knows Star Trek,
Oh, yeah.
My mom's so concerned about like me and not letting my hair grow out. Like I will just because it's so much upkeep. But she's just like, you're going to have to wear a hat. People will accost you. And I'm like, Mom, that's not that. It's going to be okay. But she's like, oh, she's such a mom and I love her. But yeah, but so that's really important for us is just, basically it's showing like, that's what Star Trek is, right? The best of humanity. Like sometimes when people are just like, oh, it's too optimistic. And I'm like, well, what do you prefer? I mean, right now we're dealing in what feels like the end times at times, and so I do want something that allows us to kind of step away, and also, but not step away, but also it's a reflection of what we're going through and how things could be better if we do better.
Yes.
And how sometimes things don't end up going better, and then how we react accordingly. And so I feel like, again, this is my show, so I'm like biased, but I do think what you guys think, which is just that we've really kind of managed to kind of get the formula very quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very good thing.
For everybody.
Everybody.
It's constantly like inspiring, and it feels like relief. It feels like coming home. It feels like something new. It gives me something to think about all at the same time. And yeah, that's what we love about it, so much. And I know Yvette's been busting. Okay, go ahead, Yvette. Like, just let loose. Like you.
No, I'm just listening because I love Erica so much. I mean, she is I came into this going, oh, my number one is finally on, but Erica, you took my breath away. I mean, you make my little heart so happy because basically, I see you. Because when I was a young specialist in the Army, I was definitely that smart ass who has always had something to say to my commanding officer. And I don't even know why I wasn't kicked out the Army by then. But I just, I always had a rapport with my commanding officer. And Erica and Pike's relationship is just the way they bounce off each other. I just love it.
I do.
It definitely reminds me of Cisco and Dax a lot. How they used to go back and forth. And even, I know you guys, I mean, I'm spoiling episode 10 just a little bit. So he kind of puts her in her place a little bit.
I'm not listening.
But the great thing about that, without spoiling anything, is that we're watching. Well, I don't know how to say it without spoiling it. But we won't say it.
We could spoil it because by the time this comes out, it'll be over. You know that, right?
Go ahead.
Everybody will see it. No, I'm not going to do that to you guys because you really need to see that one, especially Sabrina, because it has a very one of our favorite episodes becomes this episode of TOS. So hopefully after we record this, you'll go watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also it's also another. It was for me. I love that episode because I love the rapport with Pike, with Anson. Yes. I know you guys know Anson. And Anson is just such a wonderful number one. Like not number one.
Yeah, I know. We know
Rebecca, but our number one in the show. But he's just such a great captain, like in the show and also just in the cast. And for me, he's been such a great friend, especially kind of everything I've been dealing with in the last 6 months personally. Him and his family, but when we're on set together, the writers give us just these great lines back and forth, and the fans have noticed it. They're like, he calls her Erica, more often by her first name than others. And what you're saying as a soldier means so much to me because, and I think we spoke about that. We did speak about this briefly on the red carpet, but when I hear from veterans, like I've been hearing from a lot of pilots, I've been hearing from the spouses of pilots that are just like, they're like, you are them. They're just like, Erica is exactly is exactly like pilots are. And then also there's, there are some people and also, people who are also just trying to be just trolls and are just miserable. And I pray for them. But who are just like, that she's too flippant on the bridge and that she would, that would never fly in real life. And I'm always for those people. Exactly. They have no clue. They've never won. They've never served anywhere. And they most likely
never mind.
Right. They served at nothing. And then they most likely, have never been tasked with responsibility in life and death situations where you see that, like, and it's so, and also I do feel it's a bit of misogyny as well, because, and people have pointed this out. They're like, if I was a guy saying these lines, it would be cool and it'd be this and it'd be that. Yeah. So, but like, I'm gonna move forward, without any sort of reservation about any of that. Which is the great thing. Maybe it's my age. I don't know, but like people can say whatever they want, and I'm just like, I'm good. I'm going to keep doing.
Don't worry, it gets better. Get older.
Yeah, but I know, right? Like you just run out of like, you have no time for nonsense. But all the people, like I remember pointing something out again on social media, and I love Twitter. People are like, Twitter can be accessible, but I'm like, Twitter can also be like a wonderful place. Like if you follow the right people and you just like in life, right? You surround yourself with the right people, and Twitter for me can be truly just like a real way to communicate. And so, but I put this thing out because, there's some people being like, oh, she's too flippant and it's a bit too much comic relief. And I'm like, are we watching the same show, the same episodes? And I'm like, her gallows humor and her ability to laugh and her ability to be sarcastic in moments, when things are potentially dire, is realistic. And so, and in response to that tweet that I wasn't quite expecting, kind of the response that I got was just all of these wonderful people who are EMTs, who are doctors, who are soldiers, and they're just like, they're like her and Pike are me and my buddy, they're like, this is what you have to be like, or you can't make it. And so I've always kind of never been able to fully say that because I'm like, I have not been in those situations. I merely play them on television. And so getting the fans and getting people to kind of like validate what I've been doing just meant a lot. So anytime people are like, oh, it's just comic relief, and I'm like, I don't think we're watching the same show, and I'm just here to tell you it is extremely genuine, and I love seeing that because it's how you survive. I mean, of course it's a show, but when you have to go through, like you said, dire situations where
someone else's life is in your hands, not even just your life, but when it's someone else's life, you have to make those jokes. And you have to be able to joke afterwards also, because I think the best conversations I have are with people I went through, you know, all kinds of issues with my current job or with the military. And it's always funny, you know, it's always a laugh. But I know people that listen are like, oh my God, what are you guys talking about, you know?
Yeah,
but
like even like right now,
definitely matters. Yeah.
Like I'm going through, you guys know this, I'm sure, but like I'm grieving the loss of my partner, and it's in the last 6 months. It's you know, I'm naturally an actor, I'm a performer, I'm a person who likes to make people laugh, and that's what Brian always did as well, and that's what he would want. But one thing I noticed is just like I'm able to have a sense of humor about things because I know he would, and also when I'm speaking to other people who understand what it's like to be a widow, to be a widower, to lose somebody, there's like a certain level of gallows humor that you just have. And, you know, I tell this one funny story where like, I was going to set, this was like in the first few weeks of shooting, that I cannot believe that we've gotten to the end of the season. Cause you know, back in February, I did not think I was going to be able to, I didn't know what state I was going to be in by the time we finished. I knew I was going to make it, because otherwise it's like, I don't know, Paramount Plus would sue me if I didn't come back to set. So I knew I had to, but like certain things would happen, like where people didn't know what was going on. And sometimes like, you know, my mouth would go before my brain went. And so I remember one morning I was getting picked up by this wonderful driver who I hadn't seen in a year. And one of my younger sister and my brother-in-law literally brought me to Canada, you know, because I couldn't make the ride on my own. And I'm told, everyone's always saying too, like that they're so happy I'm being so open about this. But I'm like, you know, if I'm not open about grief, you know, there's so many people out there who don't have the platform I have. So you know, it's important for me to be open about this, but it was difficult to make it to Canada on my own, just because last year Brian brought me to Canada. You know, I was with Brian for everything. And so anyway, so they bring me to Canada, and the show was so helpful. Everybody's just been amazing. And we woke up and it was like 6 a.m, and they walked me down to my van that was like taking me to set. And I felt like I was being dropped off by like my parents or like the school bus, like, you know, for first day of school. And so I'm in a really great mood, and I'm like, it's 6 a.m, let's go, we can do this. And they're like, yes. And they give me big hugs, and I get into the van, and I'm in such a good mood. And the driver, like nobody briefed him. I'd wanted everyone to kind of just be a little brief so that they understood if I was a little bit like silent on our morning rides, I wasn't being like a jerk, even though that's not what it means. But you know, I like our drivers so much. I was like, you know, if I'm not in the mood to talk, but anyway, they didn't brief him. I was in such a good mood, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, hey, and he's like, how was your break? And I'm like, and I'm like, and I could hear Brian telling me like, just put your headphones in, say nothing. And I couldn't, my mouth started going, and I'm like, my break was not good. This is what happened. And the next 30 minutes, it was so funny, because my poor driver was just beside himself. He was looking in the mirror, and he goes, this is a tragedy. And I'm like, I know, but we must persevere. And he was just like, how can you even go to work? And I'm like, I don't know, but we gotta go, but we're on our way.
Right.
And so I spent 30 minutes essentially giving this pep talk to this wonderful driver who'd never even met Brian, but like had spent all of last year like bringing me home to him. And by the time I got to set, I was so exhausted that I've ever going to my trailer and just laughing. And I'm like, what just happened? I'm like, what's good? And so all the advice I gave him, like I remember that day, I was just like, I kept saying, I was like, I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay. You know, so it's just things like that where I'm like, I've really developed this wonderful kind of gallows humor, and you laugh about things that you don't know you would have laughed about. And my family and Brian's family and his friends, who, you know, we're all going through the same thing. We're all like, you know, that too has really influenced my performance in season 2. But then even looking back at my performance in season 1, I was also doing that, you know, with an understanding of that. And as an actor, I guess, you know, we understand empathy, and the best of us, you know, are able to convey that even if we haven't fully gone through it. So it's just interesting, because I was playing somebody who has lost a lot of people as a combat veteran in season 1. And I've gone into season 2 filming as an actor, as an actress who has lost the most important person in their life. And so now you guys are going to kind of see how that affects my performance, and also just affects my understanding. And I know that this is like Brian would want nothing less than for me to move forward. Not move forward, like with him always, but to do my absolute best, because he saw it just like you guys saw. He's like, this show is going to be a hit.
Yeah.
He was like, nobody gets it. He would see the scripts. Like, he was there with me for everything. He was like, this show is going to be a hit. He's like, he was the one who helped me decide on this haircut.
Nice.
And he was just like, there's going to be no woman on television with hair like that. And he's like, you're going to look like, think about you're a superhero. You're an action figure. You're
I can't wait.
You're the pilot
of the
Enterprise.
Please.
So
I need you right here. Right on here. I need right here next to the card.
But definitely Brian is a huge part of that, and thank you for saying what you're saying. But that gallows humor, I understand it now more than ever. And even though I have never been a soldier, I think with playing as many as I have, and with talking to as many as I have, I'm doing my absolute best to kind of to represent you guys as truthfully and as just as you should be as you should be represented. And so I'm hoping that I continue to be able to do that.
Well, thank you very much.
That one right there really appreciates it. So, when we were looking around, we saw the girl with short hair, your project. Now, so it's all, can you talk about it a little bit? Because I read like that opening, like introductory essay, and it was just amazing. Like, first of all, I felt like I was reading about my growing up in so many ways, like I was like, here's this woman who's so much younger than me, and she sees me like I was the same, like, quirky kid. I was really more of a tomboy than anything. I vividly remember one of my earliest memories is I was like 2 years old. It was Easter. My mother and I fighting all morning because she was trying to put me in a pink and white lace dress. And we fought. I mean, I kicked because I had my brown corduroy pants that were my favorite, and I had my little turtleneck, and it was brown and yellow and orange, and it had stripes on it, and it was my favorite, and that's what I wanted to wear for Easter. And she was like, you have to get it. And it had the white patent leather shoes. I will never forget it. And the little bobby socks with the little lace around the end. I mean, I kicking on that bed. She was trying to force and shove me into this dress. I mean, she eventually got me into the dress, and the pictures are all like, my face is all sorts of screwed up. I was pissed. And she was like, where is this child from? Because my mother is like a real girly girl, right? Like, my mom's really a diva, right? Very much so. Mom's is dope. She was beautiful, and she was always like, she's very feminine, and it was always about the hair and the nails and the makeup. Everything is perfect. And then she got me, and then I was raised around all these women who were very much like my mother, right? Like, and where we, like, everybody was all about their hair, the long hair. And I went through phases with my hair, but my rebellion was finally when I could say, stop straightening my hair. When I was old enough to tell them, stop straightening my hair, I'm wearing my hair natural. And that was my big rebellion. It wasn't until I got through my first year of college where I'm like, chop this shit off. Like, I'm done. Like, I was bald for about 10 years. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like growing dreadlocks. And then I grew my hair out, and I had locks for a long time, and now I'm back to the short hair. But all the quirkiness of like this little girl who didn't fit what society was trying to tell her the way that she was supposed to be, and how that made me feel inside, and feeling less than a woman or less than a girl, and how the guys, like the boys, didn't want to date me, like they wanted the other girls, and I didn't even know if I wanted to date them anyway, but it still hurt to be rejected, I mean, all of that. Like, I'm just telling you, your essay was powerful. It was so powerful, and it touched me on such a deep level. So I want the world to know, or as much as this world as the SyFy Sistas reach,
the tens of people,
the tens and tens
you are
to know about Girl with Short Hair.
Oh, thank you so much. And what you're saying is, I mean, it's not that I forgot it was out there, but everything that's been happening with Star Trek and with my life in the last 6 months, I almost kind of like forgot that it was out there until, people were saying, like, I read it and it resonated with me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's right. And so the idea behind it started with, it came out of kind of, being a frustrated actor, in that, I was constantly being told, you're very specific, you have to keep auditioning because, nobody kind of knows what to do with you. And I would find, that casting directors or people, they would be like looking for me. And the only way they knew how to kind of describe me was just like the girl with short hair. Like, who was the one? The girl with short hair. She might be this, she might be that. Her name was this, maybe this. I saw her this, but she was the girl with short hair. And so I really kind of started to think about it as like my whole life, with the exception of like a few years in like kind of high schoolish, and like the beginning of college where my hair was a little bit longer and I discovered I had these crazy curls. And I always had short hair, and it was just the thing that to me was never a question of doing something that people think is weird. It was always like, no, this is what I want to do. And one thing I've really been, kind of thinking a lot about is just, as we're having like all these discussions of gender, which I think I'm so happy that we're having. I'm so happy that we have language now for people to be able to express themselves in different ways. But as I'm looking at it, I'm trying to think, I'm like, what was I like? Was I questioning these things as I was growing up? And what I really feel is that I was just always defying gender norms without acknowledging that they were gender norms, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And I just have so many stories that I could relay. We could be here forever. We're going to have another episode, guys, on Just Girl with Short Hair.
Okay, I'm totally down with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we have to do it. But like, for example, like I posted something the other day with a picture of my father, and I was talking about, how I really think, my father, I know my father is, my biggest role model, and he really like paved the way for me to be Ortegas, and the movies that he showed me, and the way that he raised me, and what he taught me without me ever realizing I was being taught. But I always looked up to him so much so that, like, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be, he's a philosopher and an author. And so in my eyes, to be like a philosopher was to be like my dad. So I remember going to career day, dressed as my father. And, but I didn't for one second think that everyone was going to think it was weird. I was dressed, I had my blazer, I had my tie, I had my briefcase.
Nice.
I love it.
And I get to class and my classmates thought I wanted to be a man. And they were like, what? And I'm like, I didn't think anything. And I'm like, is it not obvious that I'm a philosopher? Like, hello. I was just like, no, I was just like, I don't know. And then I kept joking. I was like, it was either this or like togas. Like, the other philosophers I knew were ancient and Greek. Like, I didn't know what else. And so I remember specifically like going over like what a PhD was. And like my dad is an author. And so I had a briefcase full of his books and looking back on that now, I'm just like, and I'm like, didn't it occur to me that like everyone was going to like, I was like, no, it just didn't. And so as I'm kind of going through this, and you reach these points in your life and you're trying to figure out like what are you doing, and especially I've been a working actor for so long, and I've been hitting the pavement and not giving up, and I'm just like, how has this shaped my life, right? And not just how I interact with the world, but how people interact with me, and why is it still so odd when women have short hair? And I'm speaking specifically in the United States, because I know like I've been to places in Europe and elsewhere where short hair doesn't seem to be as big of a thing, but I can't speak as much about that. I can speak only because I've lived a large majority of my life in the US. But I can tell you, as when my role was announced and pictures were coming out, there was the misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, like all those people that fall into the same category of trolls. There would be this anger, and again, like I tell fans all the time, I'm like, don't let these people ruin your day, because they're not ruining my day.
That's right.
Which is also part of why I feel like responding or speaking to it is important, because even though it doesn't mess with my day, I think about the other girls, boys, non-binary kids, people, adults who look like me, see themselves in me, and are seeing these comments.
Yeah.
And so how I respond, resonates with them. And so, but you still get like occasionally, like, there'll be like some grown ass man will be responding with like, like 50 like throw up emojis. Yep. Or it'll be like, you need to grow your hair out. And I'll be like, I'm so fascinated by it because I'm like, first of all, I'm like validated because I had like friends, I had guy friends who have known me forever. And they thought the whole thing with the grow short hair, they're like, what's the deal? They're like, just to grow short hair.
Right.
Like to them, they're like, you're not being discriminated against, but it was hard to explain to them. it was hard to explain to them fully the experiences that I've had. And while definitely I have not been a fraction as discriminated as people in the LGBTQ community, trans people who, are going through much more difficulties and taking on challenges in this life that I am not. I still kind of understand it from that perspective of I know what it's like to be looked at and to have somebody judge you and make all these assumptions and then want to box you in. And if they can't box you in, you're somehow threatening to them.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Does that make sense?
We know. We definitely know.
Yeah. And so kind of seeing this reaction as when right before we premiered, and even now you get it occasionally, but it's like, whatever. I just thought that was so interesting because I'm like, again, haha, validated. Like, I'm like, here it is, and so I think that's just a big part of why I created Girl with Short Hair. The other thing though was like, I guess maybe it's just, so I do stand up, right? And I'm obviously a storyteller. And I love performing. And so the idea behind it was that it would be this collection of essays that I would just then perform live.
Oh, nice.
And specifically I wanted to perform it in spaces in Queens. So Queens, New York. And, when I started doing stand up, like one of the things, that, I guess is in any market where you're doing stand up, I know specifically New York and LA, but people begin to think that you can only perform stand up like in stand up venues. Right. And so then as working actors, struggling comedians, like you get kind of roped into all of these things where you have to like bring 10 people in order to be able to perform 3 minutes. And then I did a bringer show once. And I remember I brought like 15 people and my friend from New Jersey only got 3 people. And I tried to give him some of my people and the host was like, no.
Oh my gosh.
It was the weirdest thing. And then all my friends who came like were charged like $70 for like 3 beers. It was, yeah. So part of my whole thing was like, I wanted to show
in Queens.
In Queens?
No, this was in New York. This was in the city. This one.
Okay, that sounds more like the city. Because I was like in Queens. Come on.
But it was still, even in Manhattan, it was just like it was basically like it was kind of like taking advantage of artists and artists who are just trying to kind of like practice their work and do their work, and their friends are coming in to support. So anyway, so the idea behind Girl with Short Hair was that I would premiere it in venues in Queens that are not your typical stand-up venues, which can be a pub, which can be, an arts and crafts store, which can be all those places that we enjoy going to.
Nice.
Stories can pop up anywhere.
Right.
And then the pandemic hit, the pandemic that changed the course of our lives forever, in good ways and bad. And then, kind of everything started happening. Then I booked Star Trek. Then I kind of got a little bit like, I have this bigger platform now. I need to kind of really, understand how I'm going to put this together. And then the fall came and then tragedy struck. And so now I have this thing. And so what it's becoming now, which everything happens, I do believe everything happens for a reason, even though we can shake our fists and not understand what those reasons are. But now my Girl with Short Hair is going to be a story, not just of that, which I think is, and you guys can tell me because I've just been talking about it for an hour, so you can tell me. I think it's super important, and I think it resonates with fans of Star Trek. Will resonate with people who see me and see a part of themselves in me, and which I get all the time. And those are the fan comments and reactions that make me just tear up. The ones that are like, I'm seeing a petite butch Latina on screen for the first time. I'm seeing someone that looks like me. I'm seeing someone that's dressed in a knight's outfit, and she's, she's comes from this background. I'm like, that's who I've always wanted to be. And so, or my favorite people who are like, my sexuality is Eric Ortegas. And I'm like, awesome. I'm like,
Love that.
makes me so happy.
Yes.
but so on the one hand, it's going to be that, but it also now has to be the story of grief, and it has to be the story of Brian, because Star Trek has kind of become all of this. And I was joking with, not joking, I was crying one day with my sister and my brother-in-law when they brought me here to Canada. And I was like, I feel in many ways like a ghost, right? Because when you lose the person who was your other half, like, you feel like you've lost half of yourself. So I'm like, I feel very much like a ghost. And my sister, who understands my gallows humor so much now, she was like, she's like, you know what? If you're a ghost, that's kind of good. You're already there. You've already made it to being a ghost. And also, you're doing pretty good. You're on like, the biggest show on television. For a ghost, you're not doing too bad.
Right.
And I'm like, that's a good point. And then my brother-in-law was just like, the ghost with short hair. And I'm like, and then that has just kind of been close to my heart. I don't know if it'll be named that, but that's been in my heart in a really happy way, And that's what I want to get across to people. I'm like, grief is terrible, and fighting adversity and fighting trolls and fighting to kind of find your place in this world is terrible, but we have to find the humor and the reason behind it, and we can't let that bog us down. And that's what I want Girl with Short Hair to be. It's just like, it's my stories of life that resonate with especially other women with short hair who can absolutely relate. But just in general, that whatever you're kind of dealing with, you can see that there's a way to meet tragedy with humor, and you have to do that. So that is what Girl with Short Hair is. And if all I ever do is Girl with Short Hair and Strange New Worlds, I will be a happy person.
That's awesome.
Don't tell my reps, because they're not going to want to hear it.
They're like, don't say that out loud.
I know. They're going to be calling. They're going to be like,
I'm so happy for Girl with Short Hair, and happy for a ghost with short hair. Like, right. I mean, it's truly important. And I get that, what I'm loving about you and in this brief intersection of our lives, getting to know each other, is what I see as a commonality, at least between, I know, for myself and you, is this genuine effort to connect with other human beings, like at least on one thing. I was thinking about it earlier today, that like I really try to find something in common with every human being that I meet. This is like the only way. I mean, it's not the only way, but for me, it's the most important way for me to affect change in the world. I mean, outside of having a platform like this, we didn't know it was going to be a platform. We were just like, 4 Black girls who like to talk about Star Trek and science fiction. And then that's what we did. And next thing you know, people are like, hey, we want to listen to what you're saying about Star Trek. And so I'm like, oh, and then it grew, right? Like it grew into this thing that nobody expected it to be, But the other way that I feel like the way that I make change now is by taking these principles, putting them into action in every single thing that I do. And people in recovery will know my language when I say I use these principles in all of my affairs. That every time I meet you, that I see you as another human being worthy of respect. And that even when you disrespect me, I can at least pray for you. I can at least not stoop down to your level to disrespect you in return. Like, it's like the way that you treat other people in the world has no bearing on how I treat other people in the world, and that this is how I have to go forward with my life. Like every moment of every day, I have a choice of what type of human being I want to be. And I always want to be the type of human being that's trying to come closer to another human being. Like no matter who or what you are. And I feel like that's so much a part of what I'm getting out of what you're saying all the time. It's like you're on a constant quest to connect and communicate. Absolutely.
Right. And I think you articulated that better than I could. But you look at, like, I'm a storyteller, right? And part of it too, it's funny because, one of the questions I get all the time, they're like, what's it like, being on Star Trek, and when you saw, your face and your posters all over Union Square in New York City, what was that like? And it's funny because my response is, I've been working so hard for this, and I've known, that the right role would come along, and I didn't know how long it would take. I didn't know how long I'd be doing this for, until a role that gave me a platform like this was going to come along. But I wasn't going to give up, because nothing else would make me, I don't know if happy is the right word, but like, I don't make me feel accomplished either is the right word, but would make me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm fortunate in that I have a family, and I have Brian, who never, ever, ever, ever doubted me. And if they did, they didn't tell me. Right. So, but so there's this feeling of like, I'm here now, and everyone's just like, is it the most amazing? And I'm like, I'm actually quite chill about it. Like when I was in Union Square, like I definitely had this feeling of like, good, finally, I'm up on the posters,
Yeah, about time.
And it's not for the fame. Like I used to get, sometimes I'd get people be like, what is it about fame that why are you seeking fame? I'm like, I'm not seeking fame. I'm seeking a platform to be able to communicate with people, which I think is one of the reasons why I like Twitter so much. And I'm always like, I feel like I'm standing up for Twitter, with people like Babs, who I absolutely adore. Babs and I have these conversations on set where Babs is like, Twitter's not my thing. He doesn't have a Twitter account. I'm trying to get Babs.
I know, because I tried to follow him for SyFy Sistas, and I was like, oh, jeez.
I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. And I'm explaining to him, and I'm like telling him about like all these wonderful things that happen on Twitter. And I'm like, how you choose to communicate and who you surround yourself with, I think really, creates the climate.
Yeah.
But for me, because I'm a writer and because I'm a storyteller, and because I'm like, why have I spent all my life doing this, right? It's because I want to tell stories worth telling, stories that only I can tell. And if I can help tell stories from people and from communities that have not been told, if I can do that, then I've served a purpose, and not in any way to sound noble or whatever, but it's just like it's what is the purpose of us doing this if not that? And especially now, right. That I have, not to be completely dramatic, but it's really like when you deal with the death of your other half, like everything comes into view. You're just like, what is the point? Like I laugh when people are like, not laugh, but like when there are people who are they can't believe that I'm persevering, I'm showing up to work, and I'm so strong. Like everyone says this, you're so strong, and I appreciate that. But I'm also like, what option do I have?
Right.
Like, I would love to like fall over and just hang out,
right.
for a week and do nothing. Like my wonderful driver, who's like, how are you even going to work right now? And I'm like, if I could turn around right now and go cuddle up on my couch, I would do that. So when people too are like, that you're very open, and we appreciate that, and I love that, because I've been getting so much feedback from fans, which again was not I never anticipated this, but all the people who are telling me that now that Strange New Worlds is their grief binge. I joke, with people on social media, I'm like, I've been grief binging Downton Abbey.
Yep.
There's like a million stories, and I can, I could watch it over and over again and say, I see new things every time. And people are coming back to me and they're saying, Strange New Worlds right now is our grief binge. Star Trek has been our grief binge. And so I don't feel like I'm, what's the word? Because I've always been a private person, and Brian was too. And we were very much about like we're not the kind of people that, that like would post and be like, have a big audition, pray for me, or things are going on. I can't tell you what it is, but keep me in your know. Or out. Like I'd always be like, you'd know that I booked something when, you saw me on TV, at night after dinner, that's how you find out. I just don't make a big thing of it. But now with this part of me that's huge, I talk about it openly because I feel like because I would hope that if I'm someone else in that situation, I would like to see someone like me who has a platform and can reach out to them and can tell them, for a couple of months, you're going to wake up every morning like you're having a heart attack, and you're not having a heart attack.
Yep.
It'll be okay. So exactly what you said about like, I just don't understand. I don't see what is the point of doing any of this if it isn't to connect with people, if it isn't to show people that you're not alone, that we're all in this. And that, things stink in a lot of the world right now, but things also do not stink. Right. And so we can either focus on the
stinky.
Focus on the stinky, or focus how to fix the stinky. Right.
Right.
And so that's what I'm trying to do. And I try to be as genuine and as kind of open to a fault in terms of letting fans know, like, you know, what goes into Eric Ortegas, what goes into acting, what goes into me, and I use words. Words are how I communicate. So I like writing. I like Twitter, I hope that I can't think of a better show and a better character and a better cast and a better crew to be able to like put together these weekly stories to send out into the world and hopefully just make people smile, which is what I hear we're doing. So yeah, we're doing something right.
Yeah, you're doing something right. The show is doing something right. You know, you're all doing lots of right at the moment. And to be clear, people who were listening, I did not say WHITE. I said RIGHT. Thank you very much. Sometimes it sounds like the same word.
It does.
Just gotta be clear, you know? So we just want to thank you so much. We really, really appreciate your time. I mean, for real, like, I feel like we could talk all day and I would never get tired of talking to you. I feel like you're one of our tribe and for sure a SyFy sister for life. And we just, you know, thank you for your work. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your vulnerability. You know, thank you for everything. And we're so glad you're one of us.
Yes.
Thank you guys for what you do, and thank you for having me on. And I absolutely mean it. Like, we'll do it again. And yeah, if you can just please meet up with me every time there's a red carpet, I will be much more relaxed.
Oh, yeah. And tell Anson to keep working. I tell them, like, at Paramount, hey, are the SyFy sisters on the red carpet this year?
I will. Do you guys want me to be like happy and relaxed and like, not be nice? Like, we have to have them in the vicinity.
That was such a blast for us. It was so cool to be a part of that. It was really, and we thank everybody at Paramount for helping to make that happen. And we thank you. And, you know, speaking so much of communication, Madam Yvette, can you tell folks how they can communicate with us about this episode or anything else they want to talk about?
Sure. You can find us at SyFySistas.com. That's SyFySistas.com. Join us on the mothership. That's MUTHASHIP. The SyFy, come on now. And the SyFy Sistas Book Club, both on Facebook. Download the Trek Geeks Network app, where you can find us and our family of podcasts on the Trek Geeks Network. On Instagram, SyFy.Sistas. And we are also on the Twitter at SyFy Sistas. Become a patron of SyFy Sistas today at patreon.com/SyFy Sistas. After listening to this podcast, please rate us and write a review. We may just read it on an upcoming episode.
Thanks, Yvette. We can't leave without shouting out the baddest engineer in all the universes. His name is Dos, the anonymous one. Dos. He has his own theme music that he gets to that we give for him. He's responsible for all the music you hear on our show and our production. And if you need a badass engineer for your show or for anything else, you can reach him on the IG, the Instagram. He's Dos _ the anonymous _ the number 1 DOS _ THEANONYMOUS _ the number 1. And we love you all, and thank you for listening. And we're going to say peace, love, and hair grease. We'd like to send a big old shorty shout out to the patrons this month. Anna Post, Susan Gruner, Mohammed Noor, Anne Marie, Luce R, Sue K, Karen Dramera, Dafid Boston, Eve England, Dave Gregory, Homer Frizzell, Timothy Baum, the Chief Ernesto, LM, Howard Hogan, and Scott Jensen. Thank you all so much for your support. We love you.